On a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 the highest, how would you rate your level of knowledge about business basics? Put your answer down below in the comments. We're discussing that and more in this week's episode of Entrepreneur Insider. Hey everyone, welcome to this week's edition of Entrepreneur Insider. I'm your host and the founder of the Black Entrepreneurs Network. This is the show that's talking about all things business and entrepreneurship, so you are in the right place. This week, we are talking all about business basics. We hear a lot of stories, whether it's on blogs or magazines, social media, wherever you get your news from, talking about people that are successful. They're making millions, they're making billions, they're scaling their businesses, they're reaching unattainable heights, they're impacting their families positively and more. But no one really talks about the stories that aren't as successful. I want to take today's episode and talk about those business basics. At the top of the hour, I asked you, how would you rate yourself on a scale of 1 to 10, with 1 being the lowest and 10 the highest? What did you say? All right, well, if you didn't push your answer down in the comments, I encourage you to do so right now. So the reality is a lot of people that aren't successful in business, and despite what everyone tells you, everyone will not have a successful business. Think about massive companies that had major success that are no longer in business. So you don't have to be a small mom and pop, or you don't have to be someone with a ton of business experience to go out of business. Think about stores like Toys R Us or Circuit City, or, depending on your age, all of us have experience with seeing a business one day, whether it was online or in person, and seeing them go out of business the next. A lot of that has to do with the changing times. Yeah, a lot more people are shopping online, so in-person stores and physical locations are closing, but that doesn't necessarily have to be the case. Some people are able to pivot and do it successfully, whether it's with physical locations and online locations, or one or the other. So do what's right for your business. Just make sure that you are prepared for it. And that is actually the subject of this week's episode. Those business basics, the things that a lot of us tend to forget, especially those of us that are on a small scale, the ones that are working out of our home, the ones that are trying to balance being a parent and having a job and starting a business, those of us that really have a passion and a skill for what we do, but we're not sure how to get started, or if you get started with a major spark, you're not sure how to scale. A lot of people, unfortunately, aren't talking about that in those magazines. They're not talking about that on social media. A lot of times people are like, oh, I took this $5 and I multiplied it, and now I'm a billionaire, so buy my program, right? They're showing you the glitz and the glamour, but a lot of times they're not talking to you about the foundation or the basics of what goes into a business. Now, these are the things that set your business up for success, but they're also setting your business up for things like scaling, for applying for grants, for bringing on partners, for building a team, and more. Yeah, you can luck up and make it work, but the reality is most people don't. You can get a mentor that can help you, or buy a coaching system, but the reality is a lot of times, especially people of color, don't know about those things, how to access them, or you may not even have the funds to pursue those avenues. But what you can do is make sure that you have your basics in order. Now, you know the basics. The basics that people talk about are your name and your bank account, right? But there's a lot more to the basics, like Is your name unique, or is someone else out there using that name or something similar? Have you done your research? Now that your name is unique, do you need to trademark it? Do you need to protect some ideas or some content or patent your product or service? Well, patent your product. No one really talks about those basics. And that's what I want to challenge you to do today and moving forward. And I'm here to help. All right, let's get started. Why did you start your business? Why are you thinking of starting a business? A lot of times we have this thing, this passion, this product, and we want to get it out there. Do you want to get it out there? Ask yourself that. Is it because you want wealth untold? Do you want to fly to exotic places? Do you want to pay off your parents' house? Do you want to leave a financial legacy for your children so that they don't have to struggle the way that you did? What is your why? And a lot of times people talk about that in the broad sense, but I want you to get really specific. Here's an example. Someone told me that their why is because they had to save. They had to live underneath their means, and they felt like they were losing out on life's experiences. Their friends and their colleagues were taking vacations, and they were buying designer clothes, and they felt like all they did was get up, work, and go to sleep. So they determined their why was to change their existence, that they can live more, they can enjoy life more. So I ask you, what is your why? Be very specific. Everyone that knows me knows that I say this thing, and it's not my creation, but it's absolutely true. Specific is terrific. So to say that I have a lot of money is great. To say that I have financial freedom is great. But to put it all together is even better. So what would you do with that money? What does your life look like? How do you impact others, if at all? What are some of the things that you want to buy? That's going to help you determine, hey, if a lot of money for you is $1,000, or if a lot of money to you is $1 million, right? If I want to buy a new car and it's a Toyota Corolla, but you want to buy a Maybach, right? I'm probably not even pronouncing that correctly because that's not one of the things I want to buy. Let's just say a Mercedes-Benz or a Lamborghini. Then your why and the value associated with it is going to be a lot more. So be specific so that you can become terrific. All right, what happens when you're successful? What impact do you want to make? And some people, let's keep it real, don't want to make an impact. And if you don't, that's fine. But what does your life look like? A lot of people say freedom. What does freedom look like, right? Does freedom look like you wake up at 12 o'clock after staying up all night long, partying and drinking, and you don't have to answer to anyone? Does freedom, like me, look like, hey, I can afford a nanny or someone that's a chef that can buy my food, help with my kids, a driver, I can run some errands and keep me out of some road rage situations. I want to be able to afford those things while saving and building up college accounts for my children and a retirement so that I don't have to work past 50 years old, right? So be really specific in terms of what freedom is, what it looks like to you, what happens when you are successful. What does that look like? Some people obtain massive amounts of wealth, if that's what success means to you, and they don't mind working until they're 70 or 80 because they're doing what they love, what helps them make an impact. So does success mean to you that now you can volunteer at a homeless shelter, or you can do some work at a senior center and your bills are paid? Is that what success looks like? Tell me down in the comments, in addition to after you think about it. What does success look like to you? And how do you know you're successful, right? What is that bar? What is that measure? And how often are you determining if you've reached what you call success? What is your business about? Now, again, everyone asks you this, right? Like, what is your niche? And we're not talking about those things. And those things are great as well. But again, we want to talk about the basics. Who are you helping? You can't help everyone. I know it's hard sometimes to say like, hey, my product is for all women, or my product is for all men that want to shave, or, but what is your business about? What is it helping people get that they're not currently getting, right? From the marketplace and the world. What are your goals for the business, right? I want you to really think about what your goals are. How do you know when you reach those goals? Are you measuring those goals daily, weekly, quarterly, annually? And not just determine your goals and whether they're SMART, which we've talked about before, right? Whether they're specific, whether they're measurable, whether they're accurate, whether they're reasonable, whether they're time-based. Yeah, those things are important, and we can always talk about that offline, or you can revisit another video that I've done where we've talked about SMART goals. But make sure that your goals are aligned with one another. So, for example, if a year from now you want to retire, what are you going to do next quarter that's going to help you reach that yearly goal? What are you going to do next month that's going to help you reach that quarterly goal? What are you going to do next week that helps you reach the monthly goal, that meets the quarterly goal, and the yearly goal? If those things aren't aligned, then you're not retiring in a year. So think about your goals in that way. And again, determining what can help you meet success. If your level of success needs to be met in that year, if that doesn't happen, does that not mean you're successful? You want to do the things that align your goals with that measure of success and the timeline that you've established for yourself. I want to challenge you to actually take a step back with me. Goals are important. Success is important. Where you want to be is important. But remember, we're talking about business basics. We're talking about why you started your business, what you offer, what differentiates yourself. All of those things are majorly important. But we said we were talking about things that no one else is talking about. So let's talk about the things that no one else is talking about. Like your name. Your name absolutely should be unique. So make sure that you Google it so you can see that no one else has that name. You also want to search a domain database to make sure that no one has reserved that name, no one's currently using that name. A lot of times people buy domain names and they never use them, but what that means is it limits your access to using it as well. So if my name is janedoe.com and my business name is janedoe.com, if janedoe.com is reserved, that means I now have to find another domain for my website. I can't use janedoe.com. And if I pick something else, it may change how people find me or the meaning, right? So yeah, maybe I can pick janedoe.biz, that's something, or janedoe.co. But if I select janedoe.info and I am a service, then people are going to think I'm going to provide information, not a service. You need to keep those things in mind. If people are going to associate me and my business with Jane Doe, my Facebook is Jane Doe, my LinkedIn is Jane Doe, but my website is Jane Doe, I am the one, it's really going to be hard for people to determine who I am. And it's going to kind of take me off brand, which we really don't want to do. There's some amazing sites like namecheck.com, which I'll post in the comment section, that you can use to help you determine if the domain, social media, and other relevant platforms are available so you can have branding across the board. A lot of people aren't aware of this, and even I'm guilty with it with the Black Entrepreneurs Network. Not on purpose, but because of Instagram, which is a whole side story. But the point is, you want your branding to be the same so people can find you, people know what you do without any questions or any concerns. Second, you want to know, and really quick before we get off that topic, If your name is similar to someone else's or exactly the same as someone else's, it's time to go back to the drawing board, right? Now, whether you change the spelling from people to P-E-E-P-L-E, whatever your level of creativity, I won't discourage you. I will just say, make sure that it's easy for people to understand and people to find you without being too convoluted. Sometimes you all are really creative and I applaud you, but sometimes it doesn't make sense for the rest of us. So think about in your creativity, does it make sense? Can people find me or am I overcomplicating things? And if you ever have any questions, ask someone that you know, or come into our Facebook group, the Black Entrepreneurs Network, and ask there, hey, I'm thinking of spelling my name as people, P-E-E-P-L-E. What do you think? And people will give you honest feedback. Our group is filled with entrepreneurs, individuals, professionals, students of color that will, they could potentially be your customer, they could be your partner. And so they're going to give you positive feedback that is accurate and takes your business into consideration. So definitely never be afraid to take a poll or reach out to a focus group to get help. Now, of course, you want to limit how much information you put out there for the sake of confidentiality, but you can always reach out to a trusted source like myself for more specific help or advice. All right, so here are some of the things that I see that people post about businesses of color, and it drives me crazy because I absolutely understand where they're coming from, but a lot of it is just based upon the fact that some of us don't know to do better, so we don't. And I don't think that should be held against us. I mean, after all, there are major corporations like Walmart, like Target, and they know better. They have full teams of people to research and help them out. And we still support them when their service sucks or their prices don't match. So why should we give up for people of color? We shouldn't. We should just help encourage one another and educate one another. And that's what we're doing here today. All right, we talked about business names. What are some of the other things that we need to have as basics for our business? Policies, operating hours, pricing, let's talk about it and more. All right, so do you need to register your business with the state that you live in? That's an amazing question, and unfortunately not one that I can answer for you today. Every state is absolutely different. Every country is different. So if you're listening to this from across the globe, thanks for watching, thanks for sharing. But even if you're here in the States, you need to contact your state's office, your Secretary of State, and determine whether or not you need to register your business. And every state might be a little bit different in terms of who you contact, but do some research. And again, if you need help, reach out to the SBA or score.org. It's an amazing organization with free resources that can help you with questions for your specific state. So, for example, do you need to charge taxes? I'm sure you've noticed, you've been on some websites where people have products and some of them will add tax to the to the product that you've purchased, and some of them won't. That is dependent on that state. So in the same way, if you have a product, you need to determine what category your product falls in, whether you need to be collecting taxes, and more important, if you need to pay those taxes, like sales taxes, back to your state. While we're on the subject of taxes, don't forget, just as entrepreneurs and business owners, you may be in a state that needs to pay income tax. So whether you need to pay tax, how often you need to pay tax, and by what I mean by that is, do you need to pay them yearly? Do you need to pay them monthly or quarterly? I think a lot of people pay them quarterly. You need to determine that. You need to meet with a tax professional, which again is another one of those business basics that we need to talk about. Meet with a tax professional and determine whether you should be collecting taxes. But again, you can also reach out to those organizations in your state that are designed to help you through the process. They don't cost anything because they want to make sure that you are compliant. The last thing we want is for your business to go out of business, as one of those reasons we talked about earlier, because you weren't aware. I promise you, not knowing about the law is not a reason to break it. If you go to court They're not going to say, oh, she was ignorant of the law. He was ignorant of the law. Let's let him pass. Absolutely not. They will absolutely not do that. So you need to make sure to do your research and determine what the expectations are, whether it's your taxes, whether it's your registering, your business, or something else. There are plenty of professionals out there that are designed to help you, whether they are attorneys, business attorneys, whether they are tax accountants or business accountants. And if you need help, ask. I have a library of resources and people that I can and willingly, no charge, share with you. Now, will they do your service or offer you advice for free? I can't say because I don't run their business, but it's better that you charge someone $100 an hour to consult with your specific business on your specific needs to keep you out of hot water than not pay it, not do it, and ends up owing thousands or hundreds of thousands or millions of dollars, depending on how big your business is. Take some time, do the research, and consult the proper professionals. I promise you, it is going to be so worth it. So I encourage you to do that and to ask if you need help. Again, the SBA and SCORE are great resources for you to connect with. LegalZoom, Rocket Lawyer, those are great resources as well, but they give you general information that may not apply to your business. And why would you waste money there if you may end up in hot water down the line? All right, so while we're talking about resources, you also want to protect yourself. You want to protect your name, your brand, if you have a logo, if you have a secret recipe, right? Everyone knows the Colonel and his secret recipe. I promise if you try to reproduce it, you will be punished by the full extent of the law. You want to make sure that your business is protected as well, your idea, your concept, whatever the case may be. And that may mean that you need a trademark, a copyright. So be sure to protect yourself. Now you're like, oh my gosh, Tia, I am bootstrapping. I don't have a big budget. We just talked about this. I'm getting started. I'm a student. I work a job. I'm trying to balance it. I get it all. Even people that have a lot of money in the bank don't want to just give it away, right? But it is so important that you get your basics covered, whether you take some of your budget and invest in someone that can help you create a plan, sit down with you and write out some things that maybe you think you're not a good writer or a good typer. It doesn't take a lot. You can sit down and just on a piece of paper, you need to make sure that you plan your basics, your name, your operating hours. I literally have seen so many posts about people just being so hard on businesses of color because we don't have things posted like our operating hours and they don't know when they can buy from you. That really is a legit concern. So how do we counteract that? Determine when do you work? When are you available for business? When are you available for questions? And literally put that out and just make it plain, whether it's a post, whether it's in your Facebook profile, whether it's in a small section on your website. It's really up to you, but you've got to determine the same way you do your pricing and how you make a profit. You've got to determine those basics and cover yourself and encourage those people to support you because you have covered those basics. So why wouldn't they? All right, so we're talking hours, we're talking email, and on this one, again, I encourage you to not use those free sites, no Hotmail, no Gmail. I get it. Again, sometimes we're bootstrapping, but when you apply for grants, when you go to the bank, when you just reach out to customers, there is a big difference in how professional you come across. So I'm going to give you an example. My email was smallbusinessspecifics@gmail.com. It comes across so much more professional when it's tia@smallbusinessspecifics.com, right? Or hello, customer service at smallbusinessspecifics.com. Tia@theblackentrepreneurssnetwork.com versus the Black Entrepreneurs Network at yahoo.com. Yes, don't get me wrong. Those free platforms are great, especially when you're on a budget and you're getting started. But when you go to apply for a bank account or you apply for grants or loans, those people look at things like your business name, your email address. Do you have a phone number? Do you have a physical address, or do you have a virtual address like a UPS box versus like a Regis account or another type of virtual account? Some of those things can actually disqualify you. Did you know that? A lot of times I didn't know that either. I'm still learning. I'm still learning from people, and that's why I'm here to share with you. Don't disqualify yourself from getting funding, from getting grants, from getting sponsors, from just people being attracted to you as your customer, right? So be professional, even if you're learning, even if you're growing. With that, what does that mean, Tia? It means investing in yourself. Take a couple dollars. You looked up your domain, right? You want to make sure you didn't infringe on anybody, but you also don't want to make sure no one gets your domain. So buy it, right? Buy it under privacy, so not everyone gets your information, and use the email associated with your name to portray a professional image. A lot of times, if you do that, it may come with a free website, even if it's just a page that allows you to put, hey, this is what I'm about. This is my picture. Here are my hours. This is what I offer. It doesn't have to be a really fancy or detailed site, but it's going to let people know that you're serious about doing business, because you're going to include any exceptions to your policies. Maybe you don't take returns, or maybe you work with a certain clientele, or you're going to talk about your services and what makes you different. But even if you don't do that, even if you just put your hours, your contact information, you are going to let people know that you are all about business. That used to be my nickname in college, but we're not going to go there. All right. So any policies, your email, your phone number, it is super important and very easy to get a virtual phone number. It doesn't require you to get a physical phone unless you want one. A lot of times you don't even have to get a new cell phone. They can link to the cell phone that you currently have, and it just may have a different ring, or it may display differently on your screen when you get a call. But you have a professional phone number that is associated with a professional voicemail, right? Because how crazy is it when you call someone and you're like, this is Tia, this is her phone, right? And I'm like, if I'm calling, am I really a person that has a business? Is this like my friend calling, or is this a customer calling? It makes a big difference when you have those things in place. So get a virtual number, get a virtual email address that's not associated with UPS. And the reason why I say that again is because UPS and other post office, those are great resources. They're amazing. But when you go to apply for funds, for credit, cards, and things of that nature, they can tell what those addresses are, and it will disqualify you. All right. So for more information, I'm happy to share any resources and any information that I have on all of those things. Just post your question in the show note, right? Or email me. All right. So one last thing I want to talk about in our business basic conversation, right? We want to talk about having the importance of having the basics and then building on the blocks, right? So building on who is your niche, who is your demographic, who's your product you're serving for, and once you determine those things, how they relate to your goals. It's really important, and it's not really complicated. I have a really simple 7-part series where we kind of walk through who you are, who you're trying to reach, where you're going to go. I'm happy to share it with you, or set a complimentary 1-hour consultation. Now, don't forget while you're setting your budgets setting your basics to talk about your budget, because you absolutely need to know how much you can dedicate to getting the resources to help you create these basics, or whether you want to use these resources on things like marketing and sales. And don't forget, you want to do things like analyze your business, determine your strengths, your weaknesses, opportunities for improvements, and threats to your success. Going back to what we talked about at the beginning, a lot of times people don't consider the threats, whether the threats are an emerging online marketplace, a COVID pandemic, or someone next door that does the same thing that you do. you need to consider what your SWOT, which is what those initials stand for, analysis is, what it says to you, and what you can learn from it. All right, we've said a lot, in the last almost 30 minutes of this episode. So once you had a chance to sit down, unpack it, let me know what questions you have. Post them down below, or if you want a more confidential environment, be sure to email me at info@theblackentrepreneursnetwork.com. I want to help you get your basics together so that your business can succeed. That way, we can start talking about the things like the marketing and the networking that's going to help you scale and get some stability so that you have longevity. Now, before we leave, at one of our most recent networking events, there was a gentleman that had an amazing piece of advice that I want to pass on to you. Stay tuned to this, and I'll see you next week.
Outflow equals inflow, okay? And that applies to all aspects. It applies to money. How much money are you spending and what are you doing with that money? So if you go and buy a coffee, what is the inflow return, right? Outflow costs you $2 plus the walk, plus the energy, plus the time it takes you to drink it. So that outflow energy. What's the inflow reward? The reward is that you have more energy to last you a longer period of time during the day. Your energy peaks. So that inflow, outflow, that reaction is where you really want to focus on where your time is going. Because if you join here today or tomorrow at any point in time in this group, regardless of the cost, showing up alone will not get you anything anymore. You've already showed up. Right? Part one was show up to the meeting and join the group. Okay, that's part one. Okay, part two is after you showed up, what are you doing?
For more information about anything in this episode, you have questions, you want to share an amazing resource that you have that I may not be aware of, do you want to be featured to come onto the show and talk about how you created your basics or how creating basics has positively impacted your business? Or anything else, maybe you just want to share what your product and your services with the world so that we all can support you. For all of that and more, email me at info@theblackentrepreneursnetwork. And I'm always looking for sponsors. Let us tell the world about your business and how you're supporting ours. So if you'd like to sponsor an upcoming episode, you can also reach me at info@theblackentrepreneursnetwork.com. As always, the show is brought to you in partnership with Relationship Entertainment Television. Check out their full line of positive, engaging programming for people of color. They have everything from business shows like this to current events, news, health, teen talk, men's chat, and more. So check them out on their website, on their YouTube channel. They stream on Facebook, and they're also on Roku. If you haven't downloaded the app, be sure to do so. I want you to share the information about this show, about RETV, the business basics, and more. So please do so. I always reward referrals. So thank you for sharing. I hope to see you at a future networking event. If you haven't subscribed to this channel, be sure to do so right now. Hit that red button at the bottom right of your screen. And while you're there, hit the bell so you're notified when new episodes of Entrepreneur Insider premiere every Thursday right here on RETV. Until next time, don't forget, be great.
Tune in to Millionaire Man Cave on your Relationship Entertainment Television, Tuesdays at 8 p.m.
Tyron.
And Nicole with your weekly RATV news break. Each Thursday at 12 noon Eastern, we'll come to you with the latest news, trends, and more with a positive spin.
We know there's a lot of positive news that doesn't get reported, but we want to give you the opportunity to share your story here on RATV. If you have a positive news story you want us to share, you can submit your story to news@re-tv.net.
Don't forget to subscribe to the Relationship Entertainment Television YouTube channel. Download the new RATV Live app on your mobile device and follow Relationship Entertainment Television on your favorite social media platform.
Don't forget, make sure you tune into the RATV News Break each Thursday at 12 p.m. Eastern. Until then, be blessed and be great.
Welcome to What's Going On? My name is Demita Joe. Each Wednesday, you can find me here at 3 p.m. I'll be over here discussing different things that are going on and try to bring you a boost of positivity for your week because we all need this. We're going to share some feel-good stories. We might find a hometown hero. We may take a look at some trending topic. And sometimes we might even find a lesson in a not-so-warm and fuzzy story if we can. I'm Demita Joe, and I'll see you guys on the next episode right here on What's Going On? Hey, it's your girl Tia Robertson. I'm the host of Entrepreneur Insider. Right here on RATV. Every Thursday at 6 p.m. Eastern for entrepreneurs and news that you need to know about. See you there.